I'm going to go ahead and get us started because I know we have a lot to share today and want to talk about. Welcome, everyone. My name is Beatrice Atkinson-Myers. I am the Associate Director of Admissions Outreach and Recruitment at UC Santa Cruz. I'm also a very proud alum, so go Slugs. Today, you are joining us for our Designing Video Games in UCSC's game programs. It's going to be a very exciting panel talking with both our faculty, Dr. Jim Whitehead, and our advisors and students here, answering your questions about the game design major. Couple quick tips before we jump into it. Please ask questions. You have the Q&A feature. Make use of it right away. You've got wonderful UC Santa Cruz game design students who are here to answer your questions in real time, as well as admissions staff. So jump right in there, start asking questions. We're gonna have about 20-25 minutes of presentation, followed by 30 minutes of just your questions. We're here for you. We want to answer your questions. So put them in, tag them. We want to get to them. We want to talk to you. We want to know who you are. So put them in there, and let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what your questions are. And we look forward to it. With that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand it over to our panelists and let them introduce themselves and talk about this wonderful major.
You want to go ahead first, Jim?
Sure. Hi, my name is Jim Whitehead. I'm a professor of computational media, and I'm also currently serving in the role of Associate Dean for Undergraduate Affairs for the Baskin School of Engineering. And I also had a pretty significant role in getting the undergraduate game design program rolling here at UC Santa Cruz about 13, 14 years ago. Juan?
Yes. Hi, y'all. My name is Juan Morales Rocha. I'm actually an alumni of the Art and Design Games and Playable Media major here at UCSC, and now I serve as the undergrad advisor for the major. I'm also going to go ahead and let our student panelists introduce themselves before we get started. So why don't we go ahead and start with Sophia?
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a fourth year AGPM major, also pursuing a CS minor. I was affiliated with Crown College. I've had like many jobs on campus. I've worked at like cafes. I've worked as a tutor, and I've also worked in the office with Juan and Bennett, some of our like major advisors and program managers. And right now I'm working as a peer advisor for the program.
Awesome, thank you, Sophia. And next up we got Nico.
Hey everybody, I'm Nico. My pronouns are he, him. Let's see, I'm a senior now. I'm a senior transfer. My major is CSGD. Let's see, jobs on campus. I worked at Terra Fresca. Now I'm a grader tutor. Miss Terra Fresca a lot. Had good food. That's about it.
Awesome, thank you, Nico. And last but not least, we got Herman.
Hello, I'm Herman, he, him. I'm a fourth year CS game design major. I'm the tutor for many of the 3D modeling classes here on campus, and I'm also an art officer for the Game Design Art Collaboration Club.
Awesome, thank you, Herman. So yeah, so these are the folks that are going to be, helping us with our Q&A session later today. But I think that's enough of us for introductions, and we'll go ahead and dive right in. So again, my name is Juan. We got Jim here, and we're going to be talking about designing video games in UCSC's game design programs. So let's go ahead and get started with our presentation. Here's a nice little adventure slug for y'all. Can y'all hear the music, by the way, folks? Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. So we're going to start off the presentation with a short little video. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play out, and I'll mute myself.
We are currently at a turning point in games where more and more people are able to recognize them as an extraordinary medium that can be held up to the same standard as world-class films and pieces of fine art. Games are an impactful blend of art, design, and technology that can only be produced by collaborating with people from all kinds of diverse disciplines and backgrounds. The Art and Design Games and Playable Media major, also known as AGPM, is all about how we as artists and designers can use games to share our own stories and experiences with the world. It is a highly collaborative and uniquely interdisciplinary degree designed to give students a strong foundation in both art and technology. With these skills, you will be able to create a wide variety of games and interactive experiences. Anything from board games to virtual reality, it really comes down to what kinds of games you wish to create. While we mainly focus on the art and design side of game development, we also want our students to be able to work effectively with engineers and programmers. You will start off by taking foundational courses in game design, programming, and art. From there, you will use what you've learned to make your very own video game from scratch. After that, you can customize your classes and choose your area of focus within game design. Our faculty research and teach game design through a critical lens that focuses on the way games can be used as a medium for promoting empathy and sharing our own stories. UCSC is one of the largest centers for games research in the United States. There are many ways beyond the classroom to expand your learning opportunities and work on research projects led by faculty and graduate students. Opportunities that our AGPM students can take advantage of are games-related research with graduate students and faculty, mentorship from faculty with industry experience, exhibition opportunities at our annual showcase and at other industry conferences, and internship and scholarship opportunities created specifically for art students. Due to the interdisciplinary nature of our program, we have graduates taking on all sorts of different roles after they leave the university. Anything from game designer and concept artist to product designer producer, you can be sure to find AGPM alumni in both the creative and tech sectors. Our priority is for students to learn, grow, and be challenged in our major, and we hope that you will consider joining our community of students, faculty, and staff to have fun, work hard, and make great games.
Awesome, y'all. So yeah, that was so yeah. One thing I'll put out there is that this is a video for the AGPM major, not the computer science game design major. So it's like basically you could take all the stuff that I talked about relating to the arts and put that to programming and computer science. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yes, so yeah, definitely we just want y'all to keep in mind that you are in good company. We think that you know, the game design programs here at UCSC are really great, and we really hope that you all can join us. Jim, do you want to go ahead and start on the academic flex side of things?
Yeah, you know, our program is, you know, a little over a decade now, but we've achieved a great deal of recognition for the program. You know, by the Animation Career Guide, you know, we have the #2 ranking in California, #7 in the nation. We're exceptionally highly ranked, especially among public schools or public universities around the country. There is an organization called the Higher Education Video Game Alliance, HEVGA. They are the organization that sort of creates fellows, that really does recognition of the very top academics throughout the world. UC Santa Cruz has the most HEVGA scholars of any games program in the world, and so I think that's a nice external recognition of the kind of faculty that we have here. You know, we have a number of games that go on after the end of the program, and they continue on into shows. So Indiecade is a show that is held every year. In pre-COVID times, it was held in person down in Los Angeles. This is a program, or this is a show where the best indie games, not just by students, but by you know, independent developers throughout the world, submit their games to this program. There are, you know, several thousand games that are submitted and hoping to be, you know, displayed and recognized at the show. And so we're very proud of the fact that our student games very regularly are able to end up at Indiecade, sort of an indication that the games that our students make throughout this program are achieving that very top level in the United States and throughout the world. We're also very pleased, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, E3, they have now a student showcase, and our games are starting to show up at that showcase as well. Intel also runs a yearly games competition among games made by students at programs throughout the world, or excuse me, throughout the United States. It's called the Intel University Game Showcase, and we've regularly had our student games shown and taking prizes at that showcase as well. So I think, for me, the overall sense is, our faculty are top notch, our students are top notch, the games coming out of the program are the very best in the world. Our student games do end up getting published. So students have taken their games and published them on Steam. So here's one called Loot Box Simulator, kind of funny take on the whole phenomenon of loot boxes in games. They put their game up on Steam, very positively rated by players on Steam. So they, they've been able to go out and have this kind of real world in the marketplace impact as well. So I mentioned a little bit this college game competition by E3. So this game Squish in 2019 went down and was one of the finalists. There were, I think, only 5 finalist games. There were, just thousands of games made by students in various games programs across the United States. And this one was actually across the world. This game Squish was one of the very, very top games. And it ended up being exhibited on the floor of the E3 Expo, and they had a whole bunch of people come by and play the game, give them feedback and so on. It was just a great experience for the students to get that recognition and to have their game be exhibited in the same place that all of the AAA games on the major consoles were being exhibited as well. It was just, it was really wonderful. Within technical games research, so there's a ranking of technical games programs out there. Technical games research are things like artificial intelligence, computer graphics in games, procedural content generation, interactive narrative. The faculty at UC Santa Cruz regularly publish in the very top games venues, and we publish to the extent that we are ranked #1. And if you look at those point totals, we're not just #1 by a little bit, we're #1 by like a lot. The #2 program has a long way to catch.
Yeah, I can go ahead and take this away. Yeah, so we have, as you mentioned before, he's in this picture too, but we have a really great, diverse and knowledgeable faculty coming from a lot of different spaces. We have folks that focus on accessibility, game usability. We have folks that focus on diversity and inclusion and representation, all the way to like procedural generation and all, sort of like experts in their field. You'll definitely find them here at UCSC. Here are a few books from some of our faculty members that have been released, and well-known books, especially I think things from by Catherine Nisbister are really well known for writing books on game usability that's used by a lot of UI UX designers in the games industry as well. We have, just a little snapshot of some of the folks that we have. MJ literally made Spyro. So if you know of Spyro, he's one of the folks that teaches at the, that he's on the computational media side of the departments. So he's definitely really great. We also have Robin Haneke, who was the producer for Journey. They also run their own game design studio in San Francisco called Phenomena, and they've also previously hosted the GDC Awards. So we have really awesome folks here at UC Santa Cruz. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the 2 different programs, right? So we're covering the undergraduate programs or game programs here at UCSC. So on one side, we have the Art and Design Games and Playable Media Bachelor of Arts degree that was established in 2015. And then we have the Computer Science Computer Game Design, which is a Bachelor of Science degree that was established in 2006. So the way that it works is that there is definitely a big sort of overlap for some of the courses, some of the stuff that you're doing, and a lot of interdisciplinary collaboration between the 2 programs. So I would say that sort of the main differences that you will find is that for the BA side, we definitely try to, prepare folks for things like artist, producer, or designer type roles, while on the BS side, it's a bit more focused on engineering, developer, or graphics, shader programming, maybe something like that is what you'll find on the BS side. Then in terms of like the courses and coursework and you know, sort of like the stuff that gets covered in the classes, again, in sort of like the middle area for the overlap, like no matter which one you're doing, you'll probably be doing, you know, some art foundation, definitely some game design, game history and theory, some intro to programming, definitely group game projects. And then I think sort of as the grand finale, it's like the senior game design project that you work on for an entirety of a year. And it's with folks from both the BA and the BS side. The difference, I would say, it's like in your third and fourth year when you're sort of picking electives to sort of find your niche or whatever you're hoping to pursue. The BA side, you know, again, you'll be covering more of the art pipeline, game design, sound design, your user experience side of things. While on the BS, you'll probably be covering things like graphics, game AI, procedural content generation, and interactive storytelling, just to name a few. Is there anything you want to add, Jim, on there? Are you good?
Yeah, I think maybe the one thing I'll add is, the classes that you see, these upper division electives, things like procedural content generation, interactive storytelling, these are really emerging, important areas within the computer games technical landscape. And because we have the top faculty who are experts in these areas, we're able to offer these classes that you just don't find elsewhere in the world. And there are maybe 5 universities in the world that offer any classes at all on procedural content generation. There are like maybe 4 that offer classes on interactive storytelling. So this is one of those examples where the fact that our faculty are leading edge researchers and bringing that knowledge back into the classroom, helps really make a differentiator for our program.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. All right, and then I'm gonna go over our AGPM program values just a little bit so you know what to expect if you decide to join the AGPM program. So in AGPM, we're a community that's committed to equity and inclusion, social and environmental justice. We're also an intersectional feminist program that values honesty, kindness, and critical thinking. And we're a program that's hoping to continue sustaining, or continue sustaining a program that's pro-LGBTQ+, anti-racist, and anti-oppression. And these are the program values of AGPM. This is a little sneak peek. So our students love making games. You'll definitely, you'll probably hear a little bit more about this when our student panelists speak, maybe about GDA a little bit too, but we're gonna be doing a quick overview of some of the classes that we have, that you'll probably expect to take if you join us here at UCSC. So this first one is RT80I, which is Foundations of Play, also known as Recess 101 for folks, which when we could be outside, we definitely would go out there and play these sort of games that you would see here. This class, Foundations of Play, is really about getting, before you get into all the digital side of making games, is like looking at this idea of play and why we innately gravitate towards it. So that's sort of what you'll cover in RG80I. RG80G, it's a visual communications and interaction design class. So this one you cover like the basic foundations of graphic design software like Illustrator for making something like a board game or card game, and sort of put that out there for folks, place test and all that sort of stuff there. Jim, do you want to go ahead and take this side?
Yeah, sure. So ADK is a class where you learn the fundamental building blocks of how you create an interactive game experience. And then you also get an introduction in how do you interpret games, how do games go about creating meaning. So then sort of and I guess the nice thing about ADK is, this is a class that students typically take in their freshman year. And so, right away in that class and RG80G, you are making games right from the very beginning. RG 120 and CMPM 120, these classes are both taught at the same time. And so they have both kind of enhanced instruction on how do you do game design and create interactive experiences. That's the RG 120 side. And then the CM 120 side, we start getting into the technical aspects of how do you start programming games and be able to realize that vision for your game in actual running code. And so this class is typically taken either at the end of your sophomore year or sometimes in the junior year or your first year as a transfer student.
So next up, 170.
Yeah, right. And so then, kind of after having made, some games in the beginning, in your freshman year, then you make games in your sophomore year, you're then making games in your elective classes as well. We then get into the capstone sequence, the 170 sequence, where students work in teams of, on the small side, 3 to 4. On the large side, we've seen teams of 15 to 20 students. to make really well-polished games. And so in the first quarter, you end up coming up with game concepts and do prototyping. You form teams, and then in winter and spring, you take that idea where you turn it first into a playable experience, something that you can play test. And then in spring, you take that idea and you polish it. You get the rough edges out. You work on graphical polish, build out levels to the point where you have a really well-honed experience like the one shown in this video.
Thank you, Jim. Would you also like to cover the UCC Game Showcase, Jim?
Yeah, sure.
Right, awesome.
And so then, at the end of the year, we have all these amazing games, and like we want to show them off. We want, and we also want to have people come in and play the games. And so it's really exciting that at the end, students, you've been working on your games, and all the things that are wrong with it, and then you have this group of people come in, and all they see is just like the result of 9 months worth of work, and they're just super impressed, and they think the game is amazing, and they have fun playing these experiences. And so it's just this like really wonderful like reinforcement of, wow, like you made a really good game. And so we have them all set up in our Digital Arts Research Center building. It looks like a professionally run art installation. And we have several hundred people come through playing the games and being able to experience what the students have created over the year. So it ends up being just this like really positive experience. And kind of parents come through, and so it's always fun to kind of be explaining games to parents. And we also do have awards that we hand out at the end to the best games in a wide range of categories, just to recognize the excellence that students have achieved throughout the year.
Awesome.
Thank you, and I wear a tuxedo because we're handing out awards, and it's important.
Definitely. All right, and then our students get jobs, which is also important, right? So I think here's a little slide to sort of cover where folks start and sort of where you could be eventually. So imagine yourself being the middle, being Evie, without, maybe you don't have an idea quite yet of where you're trying to go, what direction. So definitely, our job, or my job as an advisor, and then also, from talking with your professors, is trying to figure out where, where you fit in or what sort of discipline you would want to follow, right? So right here, we have like game designer, 2D artist, 3D artist, game writer, producer, UI UX designer, sound designer, game programmer. And then, we also added AI designer as sort of like, sort of things branching off of some of these other ones, because that totally happens too. So like for a 3D artist who's maybe more technical savvy, like Herman, maybe you could be like a technical artist. And then for someone who's a game programmer that maybe specifically wants to focus on like, enemy interactions or whatnot, they could be an AI designer. So there's definitely some branching there. And, I'd say too, for folks that are starting off, especially like, now, like, do some research on some of these and take a look at like to see what, maybe what the day-to-day looks like for folks pursuing these different roles, to see if that's something that you might be interested in as well. So then, yes, Jim, do you want to cover this one?
Yeah, well, just recently I went through and I was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of curious, where are some of the places a lot of our alums have ended up in jobs? And so I started going through my LinkedIn list, and what I was doing is picking a major game company and then just searching for our alums. I'm like, oh yeah, we got some at EA. Let's see, what about 2K Games? Oh, yep, got alumni there. What about Microsoft Studios? Oh, yep, have several alumni there. Sony PlayStation, they actually reached out to me via email recently and were like, hey, it turns out there's like 10 of us working here at Sony PlayStation. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So, our alums go out, they get jobs in the games industry, and they, get them at well-known studios, or sometimes they get them at studios that at that point are not well-known, maybe like Niantic, and then, Pokemon comes out, and all of a sudden, everyone knows who Niantic is. So anyway, so it's really kind of great. Roblox, I guess, is another one like that. Roblox was sort of bubbling beneath the surface, and then this year it's really taken off. So anyway, our students go out, they get jobs in the games industry at companies you've heard of.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. And I think that's basically our presentation, at least the presentation side of it, which we'll get into the Q&A right now. But I think sort of like the final links that I'll put, that I'll talk about right here. So you have some emails to reach out specifically to Jim and myself, if you'd like. Then, if you want to check out some of the stuff from the showcase, go to gamesshowcase.ucsc.edu to take a look at those games. for the 2020 Showcase winners. If you go to this bit.ly link, you could watch a video that shows who won the specific awards for this year. And then if you want to get any sort of information about the degrees that we have, you could totally do that at games.ucsc.edu/degrees. All right, and that is a presentation, y'all. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were able to join us and present. We've had quite a few questions come in while you were all talking, which is great. I want to kick it off with some questions that are a lot from students who are really kind of anxious to know, do you have to have experience in game design? Do you need to have a background or a portfolio to be able to participate in this major? Jim, do you want to take that, or?
Sure, and then I'll speak for a little bit and let Juan address this as well. So certainly you don't need to have any experience either as a game designer or as a programmer. You know, our programs are designed to take people through, you know, without that programming or game design experience. You know, that said, you know, if you are interested and find this area interesting, you know, go out and you know, try designing some, you know, some board games for yourself, or try creating some simple video games. You know, you don't need my or anyone else's permission to just go ahead and start learning some of these things and start making games. So, so, you know, not required, but if you have that interest, I'd say go ahead and just start doing it. Juan?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, for AGPM, same thing. We don't have a portfolio. It's like I can speak on my personal experience. Didn't have a portfolio. Like I sort of figured out I want to do games like in my junior year of high school. So I was like preparing my whole life to do this. Like no, I was just like, oh, this sounds cool, and then I decided to pursue it. One thing I will say for folks, like I think the age range is like, you know, we have like high schoolers. I think if that's right in terms of the population that are checking out the talk today, I definitely recommend looking up Gameheads Oakland on Google. They're a nonprofit game like education resource center for like, you know, high school youth, I believe. So if you're interested, I know they're taking applications for that, so definitely check them out. If you're, you know, because right now, especially right now, it's like a lot of the times, you know, if you're trying to find your own path in game design, like you could definitely get stuck in that like limbo of YouTube tutorials when you're just starting off. So I definitely recommend Gameheads for folks who are trying to get some more guided mentorship on that as well. So check them out.
Awesome. So for some of our students who have joined us, Nico, do you want to talk about, before you started the major, did you do game design? Did you have a portfolio? Kind of what was your background?
So for me, I did a little bit of game design in like high school. I made like my first game in my junior year for my AP comp sci class, and then when I went to community college, I kind of like more or less took a break because I had to focus on like doing all of that. And then I did end up making like one game for my club in community college that was basically like trying to teach everyone how like Flappy Bird and like how to like make games and stuff. But like that's as much as like experience I've had entering the program. So it's not a lot. And I know a lot of people are coming into like not having any experience at all too, and they've been making like really awesome games like coming into the program.
Nice, nice. Sophia, you want to talk about your background at all?
Yeah, I started college with like no computer science experience whatsoever, because, you know, like my high school didn't offer it. And I had only like barely taken an art class, and I knew I liked art and I knew I liked math and that was kind of it for me. I had no portfolio. Yeah, I didn't have any kind of computer science experience. But as soon as I got here, like I was taking classes already that had me making games and had me like very invested in game making. So I definitely feel like you really don't need anything to start in this program, and they give you like all the tools you need. And as soon as you get here, you're like making something for yourself. So it was really impressive my first year. I got to make like a couple of games and I was like, oh, I can do that.
That's awesome. Well, along those lines, we're getting quite a few questions from our audience about what coding languages are used, what platforms are used to actually make these games. A lot of people want to know like the inside stuff. I think we have some big time designers in our audience. So can you talk a little bit about what those platforms are, what those coding languages are, a little bit more detail?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to address that. So, within our introductory programming sequence, that tends to focus on Python and C. We also require all of the CS game design students to take a class on C++ programming, because that's still an extremely important language in the computer games industry. We also, in 120, we teach students JavaScript, and those games are done using JavaScript, not so much because JavaScript's like a super important game programming language, but because many of our students do end up doing web development afterwards, and so kind of learning JavaScript there then helps them with that. In terms of platforms, we're pretty platform agnostic, especially in the senior sequence. We let students pick the platform that they think is the most, best suited for them. Students tend to be picking Unity these days, although there is increasing interest in the Unreal Engine. We very occasionally have students who will write their own underlying game engine. That's usually for very technically sophisticated teams. Sometimes they're up for that challenge. Not something we typically recommend. So I guess gives you a flavor of that. Sometimes specific classes may choose to use kind of different game engines for particular purposes. So I know there was one class that experimented working with the Pico 8 engine, which is sort of like a scaled down 8-bit engine, just to kind of work within some design constraints. So I think, let's see, Phaser, I think, is the JavaScript engine that we use. So anyway, quite a range there.
Nice, nice. Anyone else want to add anything to that? Do you have favorite platforms, Sophia or Nika, that you work with?
Yeah, Herman, what about you? Do you have anything you want to share?
No, I think Jim covered all of the things people use largely, like JavaScript, C#, C++. I did see a question about, can you build your own engine? And I think that is an option you can take in 170 if you want to take that risk. Because I know in the past, one team used Amazon's Lumberyard, and then last year a team made a game for the Game Boy Advance by just programming in assembly.
Yeah, I think Yeah, I think definitely one of what I'll say for the intro stuff, because it's even Unreal and Unity, it's they're more and more increasingly so beginner friendly. But for classes like ADK, you'll start with very, very foundational, simple things that. So something like GameMaker or Construct, and then along the lines of Twine as well. It's basically starting with getting you a good framework for some of that stuff, and then things like Unity and Unreal are obviously much more robust to get more advanced with whatever you're trying to make. Say that.
So this question actually is for you, Herman. If you want to tell us a little bit about one of your favorite classes that you've taken as a game design major, and what was it that made that your favorite class? What was your takeaway from it?
I would say the CMPM and ArcG 120 series was probably my favorite class, because I just got to make a game in 6 weeks in a small team with 2 of my friends, and we were able to make a really cool game, which actually was shown in the presentation earlier, which was Cat's Cradle.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was just a blast to have every single week. We were just having a great time making this game.
All right. So I see Sophia clapping, and I see Nico clapping. Do you have favorite classes that you want to talk about? Same, different?
I can talk a little bit about some of the classes I've taken. I do have a lot of favorite specifically game design related classes, the history of games class that you take in freshman year is a stunning introduction to some of our community values, especially when taught by our professors like Misha Cardenas. And then it also gives you a lot of perspective on where we are positioned right now to start making games. So I think that class is really cool. But what's really interesting about this major, or at least the AGPM side, is that you can take a lot of classes that aren't game design related. So I took a theater costume design class, and that counted towards the major as a like character design class. So, you know, there's so many opportunities to take classes that you never think that even apply to you. And I think that's pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Anyone else want to add anything about cool classes?
Oh, I wanna add one too. So my favorite class actually was ADG. So ADG is one of the first classes that like I had to take as the transfer, and that was taken with Marcelo. He's not in the program anymore, but like I miss him a lot. But I think one of the things that I really loved about ADG is that it shows like how much the like faculty at like the games program like really cares about you. Like especially during the amount of power outages that we had last year. That was fun, but also like going to know like our professors, like I got to meet Marcelo, and then when I took 120 this year, I was talking to Nathan, I was talking to Elizabeth, and like everybody in this major, and like now I talk to like 10 everybody, and it's the one thing I really like about this program is that like I think it really shows that all the professors here and like all the faculty like really care about the students, and that's like one of my favorite things about this program.
Nice, nice. Well, that's wonderful. Well, we are getting a lot of questions from students who are interested in more than one major in the Baskin School of Engineering. They're really interested in understanding computer science and computer game design, and maybe where the overlap is there, and whether they can switch between these two majors or how they could decide between these two majors. So Juan, do you want to talk about that a little bit in terms of advising?
I will pitch that either to Jim or Young, since that is, yeah,
okay.
they're the ones who handle the computer
Whoever's
science.
Best.
Yes, yeah, no worries.
Jim
So Jim, do you want to speak on that, or Young, if you want to hop on?
Yeah, I think, it is certainly possible for students to double major. I guess the real challenge right now is computer science is just an exceptionally popular major at UC Santa Cruz. The students are just loving that subject, and I might say they're maybe loving it a little too much. And so unlike most majors at UC Santa Cruz, and we are in the situation where we have to be limiting the number of students that we can admit into the BS computer science major. That is not true for the computer game design major, but for the BS computer science program, that is true. So I think, if you were thinking that you wanted to double major, I think that's something you would probably have to indicate as you were coming in. I think it's not really that feasible to transfer from, say, CS game design into the BSCS program, just because it is so impacted right now. And then Young, you can probably add some additional detail or flavor onto that.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Young Kim. I'm one of the academic advisors for the Baskin School of Engineering. And there's a few kind of questions regarding this. First, it's a student who wanted to know about a computer science student. As Jim has talked about, it is considered what we call impacted major. For students who want to do regular computer science, students must have applied to that at the very beginning of your application process. With that said, computer science, because it is impacted major, students have to apply to that at the very beginning. Computer science, if you're to be accepted into UCSC, and hopefully you are, into computer science, you are able to switch to computer science game design there afterwards. There is a process that we have at School of Engineering, and I can talk about that through email or other communication. But computer science can go into computer science game design, and I don't want to speak for one, but they can also even transition into the AGPM Bachelor of Arts major. It is just the computer science major that has the impacted status, and students are able to go from another major into computer science. So that's one thing. We also have questions in chat, and I'll also talk to Juan about this. Is students who want to do double majoring, or there's a question about students saying, hey, I'm not sure which one I want to do. I'm kind of on the fence. I like them both, and that's great. And that's quite common. As an advisor and coming from the Baskin School of Engineering, viewpoint here, we would strongly recommend students starting off with the computer science game design major first, we have in our major, because of these technical courses and because you have to take a lot of these calculus courses and programming courses, if you're kind of on the fence between the two majors, we say start off with the game design, computer science game design first. We do have a lot of rules and policies that have first year policies that says that you must be in proposed computer science and have these first year courses that students must take. But should you decide to say, hey, I've been doing computer science game design, and then I really do like the AGPM aspect. A lot of our students do that. So I can hand it off to Juan about how that actually process works. But yeah, we would recommend students saying start off with the technical part first if you're kind of on the fence. And then once you already know, then I would kind of look into the AGPM where Juan could talk about that.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you, Young. I think just logistically speaking, it's definitely a lot harder to go from the AGPM side to the computer science game design side versus vice versa. Like, I think you still sort of end up in this sort of like weird limbo space where like maybe other folks who started AGPM are like right off the get-go, they have some of those early art foundations and things like that you might, need to catch up a little bit on, but that doesn't mean it's not doable, right? We definitely have a lot of students that if they find that CS might not be the right path for them, they switch over to us. I can speak about personal experience. Like when I came here, AGPM didn't exist. So I started in the computer science game design major. I was not the best programmer. I was not the best at math. So I ended up switching out to cognitive science actually. So it's like in the psych department. And then I added AGPM as a double major. So would also say it's like, also like the major that you might think you might want to do might not even end up being the thing you end up doing too. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind. A lot of the being involved in games at UCSC isn't only tied to the major. Maybe Nico and Herman could speak a little bit about like extracurriculars like GDA or other things. Like GDA lets anybody from any major join and help making games. So it's like just keep that in mind. What if you decide to come here and you're like maybe exploring something like business or whatever it may be, there's a lot of different ways to get involved in games as well.
Nice, awesome. I've seen thumbs up. So okay, so let's talk about that. Herman, what is ADGA? Sorry, lit major. So help me out here. Acronym City.
It's okay.
What are the extracurricular activities? How do you get involved with them? How do they kind of enrich your experience here at Santa Cruz?
So Nico and I are both officers for the Game Design and Art Collaboration Club, where we welcome anyone who wants to make games. We don't have any requirements. You don't need to have any experience. You don't need to be a games design major. And in fact, like one of our officers is a bio major, another one's a theater major. And we just have everyone from across everywhere in school. And I don't know, Nico, do you have something to say about that?
I'm
kind of blinking.
Yeah, no, it's a great club. Like I mean, like, yeah. Also, thank you, Juan, for the plug. I mean, look it up here. But yeah, no, it's a great club. One of the biggest concerns I had, especially coming into the school, like as a transfer, we're going from a community college where like maybe clubs exist, sometimes they don't. My club we had one, but like it's really tough to go like I'm going into this school as like a transfer. I don't really have any friends at this school, and I'm going in like midway into the program, and like the 170 series is all about like who you want to work with. Like you get to meet other people too and everything, but like having some friends going into that capstone is like super helpful, especially when you want to like form a team pretty early on. So one of like GDA was like super useful in terms of like getting to like play games or like getting to make games in a setting where it's a lot less stressful. We do have, it's for our club, it's mostly like beginner focus and anyone who else wants to make games. We also want to make it so that the people who don't know how to make games or people who want to expand on certain fields. So like maybe you are like in CSGD, but you want to go and try out some art stuff. It's like you can definitely go into art, like in our art department, and like, hey, I want to make some assets. Can I have some tasks and stuff? And we also hold a lot of workshops. I hold a lot of design workshops talking about like giving feedback. We think that was this week. We talked about giving feedback. We talked about game loops and everything. So it's like a lot of the foundational stuff that you need to know going into game design. We teach it. And yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, also, I was the lead for Elevator Pitch, which was one of the games that we made last year. Pretty good. Please check it out. That's it. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a great
perfect.
club.
Yeah, definitely
That's
great.
great. No, I mean, that sounds great that you're so welcoming and opening to so many students from across campus. I have to say, you know, as an alum of UC Santa Cruz and somebody who's worked here for a bit, I think that kind of welcoming, open spirit is just so true of the entire campus. Like everywhere you go, everyone you talk to is going to be like open, inviting you to come explore ideas. You don't have to have experience. You can just get to know people. And I think that's, like you said, Nico, particularly important as a transfer student because you are coming in with this different experience. But regardless of whether you're a first-year student or a transfer student, knowing that you have this community of people around you who are really smart and really curious and really nice, I think that makes a big difference. So I just want to put that out there as a plug. We are getting other questions, though, about kind of more internships and life after Santa Cruz. So do you want to talk a little bit about what types of internships students can get either at UC Santa Cruz or off campus with different tech companies for this major?
Yeah, anyone want to take it away? Jim, you want to go ahead first? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll take a whack at that. You know, we've certainly seen you know, students from our program end up getting internships at a wide variety of companies. You know, we are in active you know, conversation, especially with Sony and with Blizzard, our two companies that regularly send you know, people up to talk to our students about internships. That said, you know, internships in you know, at the very top games companies are just incredibly competitive. You know, when we talk to the people at Blizzard, and they say they get well over 1,000 applications for each one of their internship positions. It's just kind of insane. So, we, you know, we try, you know, we work to get our students into these internship positions. You know, we develop the relationships with the companies, but, you know, there's just a lot of game design programs with students wanting to get into those internships. So, you know, every student is not able to get an internship with a game company as a result of that. That said, you know, we do have Silicon Valley right in our doorstep. And so many students are able to get internships working for regular Silicon Valley companies. And, you know, there are increasingly a number of research labs on campus that want to have students working in those research labs. And so those research labs provide you a strong experience that, you know, can help be a resume builder as well.
Yeah, I think just I don't know if our panelists want to like share if y'all have any internships. I'm not sure, but one thing I'll say is like definitely like what we try to do is connect current students to alumni, because I think that's sort of like the more like clearest path to potentially getting that internship, right? Is like folks that we know are in the industry will like, you know, share opportunities with us that we could then go ahead and share with our students. And then if students, you know, have any more questions, instead of having to like reach out maybe to like a recruiter or, you know, this mysterious person, it's like, oh, this is a person who like took the same classes that you did and had, you know, maybe some of the same professors that you had. So it's a bit, you know, having that camaraderie as like a banana slug, right? Of being like, oh, I was like also a game design student at UCSC is really helpful for just being able to reach out to some of these folks.
And Juan, maybe you might want to talk about that. I guess it wasn't held this year, but yearly at GDC, that event that brings our alumni and students together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So last year at GDC being the Game Developers Conference, we held like one of our like first like UCSC alumni current student like mixer events where we like ended up renting a venue. We got a bunch of good food for folks, and then we basically set up a time where alumni from like, so this took place in San Francisco, so a lot of people are already working there or, you know, at GDC for that week, came by to meet some of our current students where they could like, you know, exchange business cards and get to know each other, be like, oh, I work at like, you know, I work at Unity or I work at like X company, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I love this game. You know, people just talk about that sort of stuff, but it's a really great way for just, you know, putting yourself out there. And I think that's sort of like one of the things that I'll say that's one of like the, like where, you know, wherever you end up going to school, I think one of the biggest things that you're sort of, to consider when you're pursuing a game design program is like one of the key things is really that network. So, you know, going back to like, you know, our students getting jobs or where they're at, it's like, you know, the people that you're making games with here in Santa Cruz are going to be people that you're maybe, you know, like they might be at a company that you're applying for, and maybe they could get you a referral. Like I've had a few friends of mine already be like, hey, a spot opened up for like a UI position. Do you want to want me to give, you know, put in a good word for you? And I think that's really like, you know, no matter where folks go, that's really what you want to sort of develop while you're in school, is like those relationships, you know, through things like GDA, through things like in your major, just so that you're able to, you know, have those after you leave the university.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sophia, do you want to add to that? Looks like you had something to say.
Yeah, just like a small thing. Just like speaking from experience of like, we have so many like speakers come and talk to us from the industry who are like way more approachable, I feel like, than some like maybe recruiters or people that show up to like career fairs and job fairs might be a little bit more intimidating, especially in the sense that like career fairs usually feel a lot like a meat grinder when you go to them, because you're standing in line and you're really sweaty in your collared shirt and nice shoes, and you and like 30 other people are all trying to talk to this one person and make like a very personal connection. Whereas one of the talks we recently had, just like in the 170 series, was with a producer who had graduated. He was an alum, and he now works at PlayStation, and he was recruiting, or he was hiring for the Sony PlayStation internship, like as a producer, like a production internship. And I actually had emailed him afterwards, and I was talking about how I can improve my resume. And it was just, he was so much more approachable, I feel like, than any other person I've ever had, like had given a business card to, or had tried to reach out to before. So it's one of these things where I feel like, especially with some of the events we have with the Career Center, like our Design Your Future events, where we have like alumni, and then we have like portfolio talks and things like that. There are so many ways where even if you don't get an internship with some like grandiose company, you are making connections like all the time, and you have the opportunity to make connections with people who are also on their way up to some of these like grandiose companies, or have already established some companies of their own. So I feel like even if maybe you're not getting an internship at Nintendo, you're definitely getting a lot of experience and like valuable networking connections with people that work in other places. And, you know, just like one small foot in the door kind of thing for this major, especially because everything's so competitive, I feel like in the industry, it makes it so much more relieving when you have people, you know, will like advocate for you coming into the industry.
That's awesome, awesome. Anyone else want to add anything? Nico, Herman, you want to add anything to that?
No, it's fine. Yeah,
Okay, all right, no problem.
Sophia, quick question.
Well done, well put, Sophia. Much appreciated. All right, so we're still getting a couple of questions from folks who are interested in knowing more, kind of specifically about what type of research we do at UCSD. And Jim, I think you mentioned something that I think is really special and unique, which is the interactive storytelling and the uniqueness of that type of work that we do at UC Santa Cruz. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is and that research that we do?
Sure, would love to. Yeah, in general, interactive storytelling is this field where they want to make it so that the story that's being told is not just sort of, pearls along a string where you're just kind of being led along one particular linear story. They want to make it so that you, as the player with your player avatar, you have a really high ability to go into that story, make a large number of decisions, and have the other characters and have the game world adapt as you are making those decisions. But still at the end of the day, have it tell a coherent and powerful story. So one of our faculty members, Michael Matias, is a world leader in this area. He created a game called Facade, almost, actually over a decade ago at this point. Still considered to be one of the high points of interactive narrative, just because of, just how open the conversation that the players have with the non-player characters in that game, and the many different directions and the many different endings that game can possibly have. You get into a lot of very deep artificial intelligence techniques to be able to pull this off. Things like AI planning, logical implications, logic programming languages. And so That's some of the research that we do there. We also have faculty who just are generally very interested in game AI and who do research on game AI. There's a number of us who are working on research related to an AI technique called behavior trees, which are very frequently used by non-player characters in video games. And then there's this other area of procedural content generation where you have algorithms creating game worlds or game levels or game content. I and Michael Matthias, Adam Smith, and others are world leaders in this area of procedural content generation. And people generally look to us as one of the strongest schools for procedural content generation work. So that's just kind of a flavor of it. But we also have people doing work on human-computer interaction, serious games, computer graphics in games, human-robot interaction, and a wide range of other areas as well. And it's a really pretty exciting place. And then our computer science department has particular strength in various kinds of machine learning. Machine learning is very trendy and important these days. And so there's a lot of opportunity to learn machine learning techniques in our classes as well as computer science classes as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, we're coming up on our time. We have a little bit more time. So for those folks who are out there, if you had raised your hand, make sure to put your questions actually into the chat so we can see them, because we probably have time for maybe one or two more questions before we're going to say goodbye and move on to our next academic session here on our virtual open house. And I see one of the questions that are coming through is about artificial intelligence programming. How many courses are required? And how much is AI kind of integrated into the degree curriculum in general? People really got excited about that, Professor Whitehead, when I think you started talking about it. They were like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah, so I'd say, we cover, so there's no AI classes that are required, but we do have several AI classes that are available as electives in the computer science, game design, and also in the RG major. There are several electives. And so, the game AI and the procedural content generation classes and interactive storytelling. These are all three separate classes that you can take as electives. We also cover some, I would say, basic AI techniques in 120. So, for example, AI path finding using A-star is something that everyone does learn. And then I'd say, just about every game that's made in that senior sequence, the 170 sequence, they often use artificial intelligence techniques too. So, there's a lot of, I would say, project-based learning of artificial intelligence techniques as you go along as well.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we are about at time, so I'm going to actually wrap this up by asking all of our wonderful students who joined us today, what advice do you have for students who are looking to apply to UC Santa Cruz? What's your biggest piece of advice and or why you chose UCSD? Sophia, let's start with you.
Sure, yeah. As for advice, just don't think too hard about it. I remember, applying was very stressful because this application is built into like all of the other UC applications. But when you get to Santa Cruz, it's like such an enjoyable place. It's like a beautiful campus if you ever get to, go to campus. If you're worried about like fitting in or anything, there are like so many different kinds of people here. I would not worry about fitting in. You're gonna find a place. And I guess why I chose Santa Cruz, it's like the most opportunity I feel like to like have interdisciplinary studies, so you can study multiple things. I actually got into Berkeley as well, and I didn't want to go there because I knew I wouldn't be able to study like both like art in the way that I'm studying art and then also engineering in the way that I'm studying engineering. Because right now, like I had talked about, I had taken a costume design class for character design, but this quarter I'm taking like the game AI class. So there's so many opportunities here to, and they both counted for my major, so you can double dip in as many things as you feel like you want to, and you'll still graduate with like all of your requirements and stuff like that. And it doesn't seem like a waste of time or that you're just taking it for an elective. And I feel like you don't really get that kind of education or opportunity at other schools. So that's definitely why I chose Santa Cruz.
Awesome, thank you. Nico, what's your take?
I think Sophia put it pretty well. Is like, yeah, just don't think too hard about it. I feel like if you really do have a passion for making games, it's such a good program to be in. I remember as a transfer, I got admitted to San Jose State and UC Santa Cruz, and like the biggest thing I was like so hungover about was like, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I know I want to make games, but like, I don't know about this and all that. But like the more I was just like, maybe I should just take the plunge, and like maybe I should just like go for it. So I did, and that's what and like look at me now. I'm in GDA. I'm a design officer. I was whatchamacallit. I actually won Cruz. I have my Cruz Hack shirt on too. We won Cruz Hacks. I was the lead for elevator pitch. I've made so much friends in like 1 year of being on this like really awesome school, and I'm like really proud of that. And like the reason why, like I said it already, but the reason why I wanted to go here is because I wanted to make games, and like especially like looking at the curriculum and like looking at the classes that we could take was like the most exciting thing like I saw personally. So that's one thing. And also I guess specifically for the people who are like transfers is that, yeah, just don't be afraid to like go out there and like meet new people, because I know a lot of us are like, we don't talk to anybody in my class. I go and I get out, and that's how it is in community college. But I think, like Sophia said, and like I think B said, we're such a welcoming school that it's so easy to go out there and you'll find your group of friends. You'll find like so much people to talk to. Everyone in our major is like super welcoming and super nice. It's so easy to just like go out there, have a good time, because everyone out here is doing what they love, and that's the best part about this program.
Awesome. Herman.
I don't have any specific advice for admissions because Sophia and Nico kind of got it, but I do have advice in general for being at UCSC and in the major, which is take advantage of opportunities that you are given, because there are many opportunities here that a lot of people either don't know about or don't take. Like, you can be an external collaborator for senior projects. Like as a freshman, that's what I did, and I have a really big portfolio now. And also there's a list of research labs you can join on campus. I'm also in that. And yeah, and then also just like all these group projects that you have to do in classes or final projects, that those are opportunities for you to exercise game design muscles or video skills or anything else that's like you haven't really done or that you really want to grow.
Awesome. Jim, Juan, any final thoughts?
Just thank you so much for coming to this session, and thank you for all of your great questions. I'm just really proud of our game design major, and I hope I have the opportunity to teach you when you come to UC Santa Cruz.
Beautiful.
Yeah, same thing. Like, thank you all so much for stopping by. Thank you to our student panelists. They were great. I would say, yeah, like our information should be on the screen. So if you have any other sort of burning questions that we weren't able to get to, feel free to reach out to me at my AGPM advising email. Happy to chat with folks, and thank you all for coming by.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are, to join us. If you want to be a part of this community, apply to UC Santa Cruz. The deadline is November 30th. Get that application in. We can't wait to read it and welcome you into our community. Don't forget, our Q&A with admissions staff is open from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. That's all day. Just drop in if you've got those other questions. The next session is going to be coming up at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, and that is going to be on reimagining, reading, remembering, and reimagining, creating communities, with history professor Alan Christie and literature professor Renee Fox. So for those of you who are more, maybe like me, who are more of the literature person and interested in that, come at 10:30, log into that session. It's going to be a fantastic time. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to see you on our campus. Go Slugs.
Go Slugs. Thanks, y'all.